Hello, good morning, or good evening, whenever you are watching this. I hope you are doing well. My name is Catherine, and welcome to my mid-year book freakout tag. So I feel like I am a bit behind on my mid-year book freakout tag, but I had wanted to wait until June was officially over so that I, actually went through the first 6 months of what is this year? 2021, whatever year this is. I'm also excited because last month I did have my 1 year anniversary of this booktube channel. I'm counting my 1 year anniversary as the day that I made my booktube newbie tag, because that was when I felt like I actually joined the community. I am so grateful to everyone who has subscribed to me at this point. I'm so grateful to all my friends that I've made through this online bookish community. I know I haven't been as active as I was previously, but I am so grateful to all of you for listening to me just rant about all the books that I love. I feel like this past year, I've just made some of my new best friends. I adore so many of you, and I'm so grateful that you all are here. That being said, let's talk about the books that I have read so far in 2021. Let's start with some stats before we get into the actual tag portion of this video. So as of June 30th, I have read 82 books in the year of 2021, which is insane. That's so many books. Of those books, 49 of them have been audiobooks, 5 of them have been ebooks, and 28 have been physical books. Talking about genres, this is kind of the basic breakdown of the genres, just because some fall into multiple categories, and I'm really bad at classifying what genre a book is. So I have read 11 contemporary romances, 20 YA fantasy, 23 historical romances, 11 YA contemporaries, 8 fantasy romances, 1 nonfiction, 1 mystery thriller, and 7 just general fiction books. Those 7 are ones that I'm not sure where they go, so we're just calling them general fiction, and we're rolling with that. Romance has obviously become a huge part of what I am reading at this point. It is a genre that I have fallen in love with, and that definitely is reflected in this tag because I just really love romances. Let's get into the actual mid-year book freakout tag. Oh, and of course, as always, I did not choose just one book, author, whatever the question is. There's multiple answers for each and every one of these questions. Is anyone surprised? I'm not, so let's go. Question number 1 is the best book that I have read in 2021. That is a hard question to answer. One that I talked about a lot at the beginning of the year was These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. This is a Romeo and Juliet 1920s retelling, takes place in Shanghai. There's some fantasy elements to it. It is a enemies to lovers to enemies to who knows type book. I'm so excited for the sequel to come out in November. I probably will cry a lot. I cried in this one. So definitely These Violent Delights is one of them. Of course, I have to put a Sarah MacLean in here, so 10 Ways to Be Adored When Landing... 10 Ways to Be Adored When Landing a Lord. That is the title of this. Oh my gosh, I just fell in love with this particular book of hers. Something about the romance was just so beautiful, and I loved how it was both a romance and they developed this friendship on top of their romance. I think this is what really sold me on Sarah MacLean's writing. This was the second book that I read of hers, and I just fell in love. I also have to say, spoiler alert, by Olivia Dade. That book just means so much to me. I make a lot of jokes about it because it definitely is a book that I can self-insert hardcore. But more than that, again, I just love the characters and I love the romance, and I think that it is just beautifully written, and I love Olivia Dade's writing. And I do have to do a very special shout out to the books of the Grishaverse, The Shadow and Bone, Six of Crows, and even the King of Scars duology, even though that one definitely isn't my favorite. I've read these books previously, so they aren't new to this year, but I just had the best time this year reading them because of the Grishaverse read-along. It just created a brand new experience for me, and I met some really wonderful people during it, and I just loved my overall just experience reading the books. Because honestly, one of the reasons why I love to read isn't just for like plot and well-developed characters, it's the experience of reading them. Yeah, so there we go. Question number 2 is best sequel that I've read. The first one I have to include is one that I have very recently read, and that is Act Your Age, Evie Brown. This is the last and final book of the Brown Sisters trilogy by Talia Hibbert. I loved this one. I have like progressively loved each of the Brown Sisters books more and more, and this one, so good. Again, just love the romance. I love the characters. And I love that Talia Hibbert, like in her books, it isn't just about the romance, but also the characters themselves and their like development and them trying to figure out who they are. And I love it so much. The other book that I just definitely have to mention is Brazen and the Beast by Sarah MacLean. This is the second book of her Bare Knuckle Bastard series, and again, I just loved it so much. The romance, the characters, the setting. I loved the setting of this series because it was definitely like darker and grittier than any of her other books, even her Fallen Angel series. So I love it. So yeah, definitely this one. Also, can we just talk about the step back of this book? Okay, question number 3 is new releases that have come out this year so far that you haven't read yet, but you meant to. That's not the actual wording. What is the actual? New releases you haven't read yet, but want to. That's the actual wording of that question. There is a lot because I haven't been reading my normal genres. So there's a lot of books that I was anticipating that I just haven't gotten to yet for whatever reason. And that reason is probably because I can only read romance right now. I don't know. We're good. I for sure want to read Lost in the Neverwoods by Aiden Thomas. I loved their first book, Cemetery Boys. And I have heard kind of mixed things about this one. I think people like it. They just didn't like it as much as Cemetery Boys, which, like, fair, fine, whatever. Also, this book that I got way back in January, Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. I don't know why I haven't read it. Probably, I have to be, like, in a certain mind space for Angie Thomas's books, because they always make me cry. And if I know a book is going to make me cry, I'm less likely to pick it up, even if, like, I do cry in other, it's a whole thing. Anyway, I definitely want to read this one. I'm going to read it before the end of the year because I want to, I need to. It's going to happen. I also really want to read Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It just recently came out, so I'm, like, giving myself a little bit of a break that I haven't read it yet. But I have loved Taylor Jenkins Reid's other books, as everyone on BookTube, Book Talk, Bookstagram has. I am very, very excited to read Malibu Rising because it just sounds like such a good time. Question number 4 is most anticipated releases for the second half of the year. Now, I have a whole list, but I am going to be posting a video next week of all my anticipated releases, so you're gonna have to watch that video to see my anticipated releases because I don't want to spoil that video. But if you are watching this in the future, links right there, go watch that video when it comes out. Question number 5 is biggest disappointment. I am going to say something that will surprise no one, and that is the Bridgerton series. Oh, remember when I read Bridgerton at the beginning of this year? Oh my gosh, that feels like so long ago. Bridgerton series for sure was such a huge disappointment. When I read those, I thought that I just would never like historical romances, despite the fact that I love romances and I love historical fiction. But those books, I want to specifically say the book To Sir Philip with Love, because that is Eloise's book. And in the show, I did genuinely love Eloise's character. Very different in the books. And it was a huge disappointment. Oh my gosh, it was so bad. I hadn't really ever given a book like 1 star until the Bridgerton series. Another huge disappointment was A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. This book seems like everything I would like. It's a romance, it's a Hades and Persephone retelling. There's realistic fantasy. What is the magical realism? That's the word I'm looking for. It's a magical realism type book based on the gods and goddesses. It sounds like something I would love. And unfortunately, it just got so hyped up for me that I was very, very disappointed in this book. Maybe if people hadn't talked about it before, if I had just gotten into it knowing like the bare basics, I would have loved it or at least enjoyed it. but because it was so hyped up, I didn't like it. Question number 6 is biggest surprise. I have to say, of course, I gotta mention Sarah MacLean. How many times am I gonna mention Sarah MacLean in this video? Yeah, Sarah MacLean's books were a huge surprise to me because, again, in the past, I haven't really liked any other historical romances, and these books just kind of like opened up a world for me and made me realize that there are good ones out there. You just kind of have to search for it. Yeah, and since reading these ones, I've read a couple others that I just really, really enjoy. So yeah, Sarah MacLean's were a huge surprise because I honestly was just expecting Bridgerton Part 2. Another huge surprise for me was If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. This book is a mystery thriller type book, and I don't read mystery thrillers, but because it is so based in theater and Shakespeare and like really focused on like theater school, going to theater school, going to theater college, and the relationship that actors have there, yeah, I totally fell in love with this book, and it was really unexpected because, again, I do not do mysteries. Question number 7 is favorite new author. This could be a debut or just new to you. So obviously Sarah MacLean is a favorite new author of mine. I am so excited for her book Bombshell to come out. I want it in my hands already, and I just really I really want that book. Olivia Dade is another new author to me that I really like. I've read, spoiler alert, and her previous series. There's something about Marrington, something like that. I'll put a picture right here of the first book in the series. I like that she explores more than just the romance side of things. Similar to Talia Hibbert, like she really, really focuses on the character's development. And I just really appreciate that in a book. Another new to me author is Alexandra Bracken. She's had so many books come out. Between The Darkest Mind and Passenger, I just for some reason had never read any of her books, and I read Passenger and fell in love with her writing, and then I read Lore. That just solidified how much I love her writing style. And of course, a debut author that I really loved, although technically she debuted in 2020, but I read the book in 2021, was Chloe Gone for These Violent Delights. Like I said, I just really, really loved her writing style. Number 8 is newest fictional crush. Now, last year, I couldn't really answer it. I had like one, mostly because I was reading a lot of YA. I just started getting into like adult romances and things like that. So I couldn't really answer it because I'm like, they're all like 16, 17. I'm not crushing on any of these children. But this year I read so many romances. So just to name a few, I of course have to say Lord Nicholas St. John. He's just so charming, and when he calls her beauty, oh, it kills me. And of course I have to say Wit from Brazen and the Beast. Yeah, I love like a strong male romance, love interest, whatever, who isn't like trying super hard to be alpha male. And I love that about Wit. Even though his name is Beast, he's so soft and I love him. I also have to mention another Sarah MacLean character, Cross from One Good Earl Deserves a Lover. He's a cute little ginger. I love a cute little ginger. Again, soft boy. Love him so much. It is no surprise that I fell in love with Marcus Castor Roop from Spoiler Alert. Yeah, we're not shocked about this one at all. Yeah, I love a guy who is pretending to be a himbo, but is actually like really smart, and yeah, I love him a lot. I also fell in love with Zephyr from Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. I just love an emotionally intelligent man who reads romance novels, and he reminds me of Justin Baldoni from Jane the Virgin, who I also love. Just personality-wise, they remind me of each other, and yeah, that, 10 out of 10. Question number 9 is new favorite character, or characters as it is with me. First and foremost, I want to say this year I found a new appreciation for Zoya from the Grishaverse. I knew when I had first read King of Scars I really liked her, but with the Grishaverse read-along, with Rule of Wolves, and just generally some like fan art and stuff I've seen of her and her relationship with Nikolai, I love that woman so much. Yeah, I love Zoya. Obviously Nina Zenik, but that is not a new favorite character. But yeah, I have this like brand new like appreciation of Zoya as a character. I think she's just so wonderful. Of course, have to say Juliet and Roma from These Violent Delights, the two of them, they're so soft but also so stabby, and I love it. The angst, it's like a good amount of angst, because some angst just annoys me. When they're like brooding, don't like that. When it's just kind of like angsty, love that in a character. I also fell in love with Danny and Evie from Take a Hint, Danny Brown, and Act Your Age, Evie Brown. I just think the two of them, again, I relate to them on so many levels. And I think the two of them went through some just really wonderful, beautiful developments in their books. I also love the character of August from One Last Stop. I, again, related to her maybe too much sometimes. And I gotta say, April from Spoiler Alert, this woman, she knows what she wants. She tells men off like that. I love that. 10 out of 10. Question number 10 is books that made you cry, and I feel like it would take less time to talk about books that didn't make me cry. So just in quick succession, Crooked Kingdom, sobbed like a baby. King of Scars, also cried quite a bit. Rule of Wolves, we don't talk about how much I cried in that one. I also definitely cried when I read A Court of Wings of Ruin and A Court of Silver Flames. There were just certain lines in there where I read them and I was like, okay. Spoiler alert, I was cooking while I was listening to the audiobook of this and I had to stop because I was crying too hard. One Last Stop. Again, started crying while driving, while listening to the audiobook and had to pull over. We're not going to talk about that one either. I also cried quite a bit during Love and Olives by Jenna Evans Welsh, I believe is the author's name. There was just a certain section of it that just made me go, okay, yep, yeah, wow. There was a part in Brazen and the Beast that made me just sob uncontrollably. We're fine. Both Take a Hint, Danny Brown, and Act Your Age, Evie Brown made me cry. And finally, If We Were Villains, that one also made me cry a lot. There were several other books that made me tear up, maybe even cry. These are just the ones off the top of my head that I was like, those ones made me cry too much. On the flip side, books that made me happy. Perfect on Paper by Sophie Gonzalez. I loved this book, even though I had a little bit of a problem because she did call it Cinderella's Castle instead of Sleeping Beauty's Castle. The Brown Sisters books made me incredibly happy. I mean, so many of the books that were on my favorites list just filled me with so much joy. And as I said before, the Grishaverse books and just doing the Grishaverse read-along made me so happy, even though I cried a lot. It still just made me so happy reading those books, and I have to resist rereading them every single day of my life. For this next question, ignore that blank space in my bookshelf because gotta talk about the most beautiful books that I bought. This year I went a little bit crazy with special editions. Specifically, I got like every Grishaverse special edition that I could get my hands on. I have the UK edition of Shadow and Bone, which is just so beautiful. It has these beautiful sprayed edges and this gorgeous design right here. I also got the American special edition of Shadow and Bone, which, let's just pop that sucker out. Ah, she's so pretty, and the inside is just as gorgeous. It's so pretty. Look at that stag. I'm really hoping that Le Bardugo comes out with all of the Shadow and Bone books, the Gracia trilogy, in these special editions because they're just so pretty. I also got the collector's editions of Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. Again, these are just so beautiful. You can see that gorgeous red with the sprayed edges and this gold, the designs in them, and we have like some gorgeous art in the back. Oh, and there's writing on the back as well. And of course I got the Illumicrate edition of Rule of Wolves. I'm still trying to find the Illumicrate edition of King of Scars. One day I will get my hands on that book, I swear. But yeah, it's just so pretty. We got this side here, we got that, sprayed edges. Yeah, it's just absolutely gorgeous book, and I'm in love. I also want to give a special shout out to not any special editions, but Kate in Waiting is just so pretty by Becky Albertalli. Just the gold. Yeah, this book. Gorgeous. And then also Namesake by Adrienne Young. I just love the design of her book. Yeah, I just love this book. I think it's so pretty, and the inside flap. 10 out of 10. Question 13 is books that you want to read by the end of the year. So I have quite the backlist of books that I own that I haven't read yet. So my main focus for this second half of the year is to try and get through all the books that I own that I haven't read yet, because there's a lot. And I feel really bad about the fact that I haven't read them. So I'm really gonna try and get through all of those. I'm not even gonna try and list them all because there's a lot, and we would be here for the next 5 years if I tried to list all of them. Finally, question 14, which like some people do, some people don't. I don't know if this is actually officially a part of the mid-year book freakout tag, but the question is favorite book adaptation you've seen this year, and I gotta put a special shout out to Shadow and Bone. Is it the most book accurate? No. Do I love it? Yeah. Have I watched it 4 times? Absolutely. Will I watch it again? 100%. I love Shadow and Bone. If anyone is casting for Shadow and Bone, hi, my name is Catherine Zofri. I am an actor. And I would love to play random pirate on Sturmhond's ship number 6 who gets killed by the sea whip. I'm down. Hit me up. Email is down below. Thank you. Well, that does it for the mid-year book freakout tag. Let me know, what are some of your favorite books that you have read so far this year? Have you read any of these books? What are some of your bookish goals for the second half of the year? Let me know down below. As always, if you've liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, be sure to hit subscribe. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and until next time, bye!